Gents, the layering map. Understand this, most men have no idea how to layer, okay? They either wear one jumper and a coat and call it a day, or they pile loads on and end up looking like a bin bag full of washing. Now, done right, layering does the opposite. It keeps you warm, it adds depth and interest to an outfit, and somehow makes you look leaner and sharper, not bigger. By the end of this, you'll have a single map you can follow every time it gets cold, so you look intentional instead of lumpy. Now, gents, here's the thing men get wrong. They think layering is just putting more stuff on. It's not, okay? It's a system with an order and a couple of simple rules. And once you can see it laid out, it stops being guesswork, okay? The man who layers well isn't doing anything clever or expensive. He's just following the map, essentially, okay? But the man who looks bulky and thrown together is breaking it without even knowing the rules even exist. I'm going to draw the whole map, right? The 3 layers, what each one does and the order that they go in, the 2 rules that keep you looking sharp instead of stuffed, and how to use color so it all looks planned and not piled on. By the end, you'll be able to build a layered outfit on yourself, piece by piece, and know exactly why each bit is there. Okay, so let's build it. You got my trusty board here. Now, let's start with why this goes wrong for so many men, because you'll recognize yourself in one of these 2. When it gets cold, men fail at layering in one of 2 directions, okay? Either they don't really do it at all, or they do too much of it badly. Both leave them looking worse than they need to. The first man doesn't layer, okay? He's got one jumper, and when it gets cold, he puts a coat over it, and that's the whole plan. Nothing wrong with it exactly, but it's flat, yeah? There's no depth to it, no interest, and often not enough warmth either. He's playing it safe and ending up looking a bit classic, or a bit basic, and a bit cold, right? When a couple of smart layers would have him warmer and looking far more put together, right? Now, the second man has the opposite problem. He layers, but he just piles it on. He's got a thick top, under a thick hoodie, under a thick jacket, and now he looks twice his size, all lumps and bulk, like he's wearing everything he owns at once. He thought more layers meant better layering. It doesn't. He's warm, but he's shapeless. And the whole thing looks heavy and thrown together rather than sharp. And that's what both men are missing, okay? Layering isn't about how much you put on. It's about putting the right things on in the right order. It's a system, not a pile. Now, the good news is the system is simple, just 3 layers and a couple of rules, okay? And once you've got the map in your head, you'll never fall into either trap again. So let me draw you the map. Well, actually, I've drawn you the map already, okay? Now, you've got layer 1, layer 2, layer 3. Here's my gentleman here. Base, mid, and outer. We'll talk about them as we go. But look, here's the whole thing in one picture. Every good layered outfit, no matter how simple or how fancy, is built from 3 layers, okay? You've got a base layer, which is layer 1, a mid layer, which is layer 2, and an outer layer, which is layer 3. That's it. Once you see these 3 slots, layering stops being a mystery and becomes a thing you just fill in. Right, let me draw it on this figure, layer 1. Closest to your body is the base layer. It's the thin stuff that sits against your skin. It's your shirt or your singlet or your tee, right? So if I draw it on here, it's your t-shirt, okay? Or if you've got a singlet on, it's your singlet, yeah? Scoop neck singlet. Simple as that, okay? That's your base layer, okay? Over that goes the mid layer, right? So this is your jumper, your knit. It's the warm bit in the middle, okay? So for me, I wear turtlenecks. So I'm gonna go up here. Turtleneck jumper, okay? No. Mid layer, mid. Cross it out, all right? So there's your turtleneck, okay? And then over that goes the outer layer, which is your jacket or your coat, and the bit that finishes it and faces the weather, okay? So here's my guy. I'm gonna draw a nice long sort of coat here. It goes up and sort of like, now it's kind of, okay, cool. Now we've got his coat, okay? Sort of splits him in half. We've got a nice lapel on this coat. Nice. Nice lapel, like that. Okay, cool. You can't really see my lapel, but anyway, you get the picture, right? Base, mid, outer, skin out to street. Every layered look you've ever admired on another man was just these 3 slots filled well. Now, here's why thinking of it as 3 slots helps you, okay? It stops you both ways. The man who underlayers can see he skipped the mid layer. He's gone base straight to outer, jump to the coat, and he's missed the bit that adds warmth, but also adds interest. The man who overlayers can see he's stuffed 3 things into one slot, 3 thick mid layers piled up instead of one good one. The map shows you exactly what's missing or what's doubled up. You're not guessing anymore. You're filling the 3 slots, and the beauty is it works at every level, okay? A simple version is a tee, a jumper, a jacket, base, mid, outer, done, okay? Tee, jumper, jacket. A dressier version is a nice shirt, okay? A fine knit and a wool coat, right? Same 3 slots, just smarter pieces. Cold day, you make each layer a bit warmer. Milder day, you drop the outer and run base and mid. Same map every time, you just change what goes in each slot. Learn the 3 and you can dress for any weather without ever thinking hard about it again. Let's fill the first slot, right? The base layer, okay? This is the thing against your skin, the bottom of the stack. We're thinking your shirt, your tee, a thin, fine knit top. And the one job of the base layer is the most important rule in the whole system. You keep it thin and close to your body, against your skin, fitted tee, singlet, etc. Now here's why thin matters so much. The base layer is the foundation everything else sits on. And if it's bulky, everything on top of it is bulky too. If you start with a thick, baggy top against your skin, you've essentially lost before you've begun, right? Every layer you add on after that just stacks more bulk on a bulky start, right? You need to start with something thin and close and like a proper fitting tee or a shirt. And then you've got a lean base to build on. So the whole stack stays sharp. No hoodie, not a bulky knit, all right? No bulk. So the base layer should fit you properly and sit flat. A tee that's cut close, not tight, not baggy. A shirt that fits through the body, thin material, nothing chunky, and it doesn't need to be exciting because mostly and most often it's hidden. It's the quiet foundation under everything else, okay? Its job isn't to be seen. Its job is to fit close so the layers on top have a lean shape to follow. Get a flat, well-fitting base and have half the bulk problem solved before you add anything. Now, one more job the base does is it sits against your skin. So it's the bit that has to be comfortable and breathable, right? So we're talking fabrics. Natural stuff like cotton works because it feels good all day and doesn't trap sweat. This is the layer touching you for hours, okay? So it's worth getting a few good plain ones that fit well in simple colors because they're the bedrock of every layered outfit you'll ever build, okay? Thin, close, comfortable, that's the base. And then we add warmth, mid layer. Right, so the second slot, the mid layer, and this is actually the fun one, right? Because this is where most of your outfit actually lives. The mid layer is the warm bit in the middle, over your base, under your coat, right? Your jumper, your knit, a cardigan, an overshirt, sweatshirt, etc. It does 2 big jobs at once. It keeps you warm, and it's the main thing people see. So start with the warmth job. This is your insulation layer, right? The layer doing most of the work to keep the cold out. We're talking a good knit, like a nice lamb's wool or merino jumper that traps warmth without being thick and heavy, which is exactly what you want. This is also where you add real warmth to an outfit without adding bulk, okay? A fine knit, like a good turtleneck, is warmer than it looks and stays close to the body. So you get the heat without the lumps. That's the whole trick of staying warm and still looking lean. Now the look job, because this is the bit on show between your open coat and above your waist. So it carries the outfit, right? The color of your knit, the texture of it, whether it's a crew neck or a roll neck or an overshirt or turtleneck, etc. This is what people actually notice, okay? So the mid layer is where you put your nicest, most interesting piece. The one with a good color, or a nice texture to it. When a layered outfit looks great, 9 times out of 10, it's the mid layer doing the talking, okay? It's the star of the show, and this is the slot the underlayerer skips and the overlayerer abuses, okay? The man who goes jumper straight to coat with no thought is wasting his best slot, and the man who piles 3 thick things on is jamming the one slot full. The fix is one really good mid layer, warm, well-fitting in a color or texture you like. You can even run 2 thin mid layers on a cold day, like a shirt under a fine knit, but the rule is thin ones that still sit close, never thick ones piled up, okay? Never. Get one brilliant mid layer and your outfit's basically made. So then we have the third slot, layer 3, the outer layer, okay? So this is the coat or the jacket or that goes over everything. The bit that faces the weather and finishes the whole look. An overcoat, a field jacket, a bomber, a leather jacket, whatever the outermost thing is, its job is to protect you from the elements and frame everything underneath. Now, here's the key thing about the outer layer, and it catches men out. It has to be cut big enough to go over the other layers and still sit right, okay? Over layer 1 and layer 2. This is where the bulky look often sneaks back in. A coat that fits you perfectly over just a tee will pull and strain the second you put a jumper underneath it, okay? It'll strain in your shoulders and around your back. And now you're back to lumpy, right? So your outer layer needs a little more room than your other clothes. Enough to slide over a base and mid layer and still hang clean and smooth. When you buy a coat, try it on over a jumper, not a tee, okay? So you know it'll actually work in the cold. The outer layer is also the frame of your body. It sets the tone of the whole outfit, okay? A smart wool overcoat makes everything under it read smarter. A rugged field jacket that makes it read more casual. So you pick the outer to match where you're going and you let it set the level. And here's a trick that keeps you looking lean. You need to wear it open all the time, when you can at least. An open coat draws 2 big long straight lines down your body and shows the layers underneath, which makes you look taller and slimmer. Done up, it can box you in a little bit. So open is usually the sharper look if it's not minus 10 degrees. So the outer layer protects you, frames the outfit and sets the tone. And it just needs room to sit over the rest. Now that completes the map: base, mid, outer, 3 slots filled, okay? But there are 2 rules that decide whether those 3 layers look sharp or look like a pile of clothes, and that's what's next, okay? So far we've got what goes where, now the rule to make it actually work. So we've got some rules here, okay? The rule that decides whether you look sharp or look like a pile of washing is thin to thick. You need to remember that. Go thin to thick from the inside out. Each layer should be a little heavier than the one underneath, never the other way around. Get this one rule right and the bulk problem will disappear. Think about why it works. Your layers sit one inside another, so each one has to fit over the one beneath it. If you start thin against your skin, okay, and get gradually thicker as you go out, each layer slides neatly over the last and the whole stack stays smooth and close. Thin tee, then a fine knit over it, then a coat over that. Each step up, just a bit thicker. It stacks clean like a set of bowls that fit nicely in each other, okay? There's no fighting, no bunching, etc. That's what you need to think about, thin to thick, avoiding bulk, right? Now, if you do it the wrong way and you will feel the problem instantly, okay? If you put a thick jumper or a thick chunky jumper against your skin, then try to pull a slim jacket over it. The jacket strains and pulls and bunches up because there's a great lump underneath it. The layers are fighting each other instead of sitting together. That's the bulky, lumpy look in one mistake, right? A thick layer trapped underneath a thinner one with nowhere to go. The order was wrong, so the whole thing fights itself. So the rule is dead simple, really, when you think about it. Thinnest against your skin, okay, for base 1. Thickest on the outside for base 3 or layer 3, getting heavier as you go. Base thin, mid warmer, outer the heaviest. If you ever feel bulky or a layer's pulling, this is almost always why. Something thick is trapped under something thinner. When you fix the order, it'll sit right, okay? This one rule, thin to thick from the inside out, is the difference between layered and sharp and layered and lumpy. Now, the second rule, and this is what makes layers look planned instead of piled on, is keep your layers in colors that work together. When you've got 3 layers all on show at once, the colors are doing a lot of the talking. And if they clash, the whole thing looks like you got dressed in the dark, no matter how good the rule of thin to thick is underneath. Here's the easy way to never get this wrong though. Stick mostly to calm, plain colors that all sit in the same family or color palette, right? Your navies, grays, browns, creams, greens, the quieter tones, okay? When your 3 layers are all in that kind of range, they automatically go together because none of them is fighting the others. A gray tee, a navy knit, a brown coat, all calm, all easy together. They look considered without you having to be a genius about color, right? It's safe, it's simple, and it always works. Then once that's your habit, you can add interest the smart way through texture and one bit of color in the midsection, not through chaos, okay? Now, texture is layers that are calm in color but different in touch, right? A smooth shirt, a chunky feel knit, and a rough coat. All quiet shades, but interesting to look at up close. And if you want a pop of color, you let one layer be the star, again, usually the mid layer, and you keep the rest calm around it. One interesting piece, quiet supporting cast. That's how you look intentional instead of loud. So the color rule is calm tones that share a family. Then add interest with texture and one standout piece, not by throwing 5 colors together. This is the bit that makes layering look deliberate, okay? Like a man who planned it, rather than a man who just kept putting things on. Get the order right with thin to thick, get the colors right by keeping them calm and connected, and your layers go from a pile of clothes to a proper outfit. Capiche? Right, so that's the whole map. Let me put it back together for you. 3 layers, layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, base, mid, and outer. Thin against your skin, getting thicker as you go out, all in calm colors that work together, with your nicest piece as the mid layer doing the talking. That's it. That's layering start to finish. Now you can build it on yourself any cold day of the year. That's what this does for you. You'll never again stand there cold with just a jumper and a coat, flat and basic, because you know to fill the mid slot properly, and you'll never again pile on 3 thick things and look twice your size, because you know to go thin to thick and to keep each layer close, right? This is the system. You've got the system now. So getting dressed when it's cold goes from guesswork to just running the map. Base, mid, outer, thin to thick, calm colors. Same 3 slots every time. And here's what it really gives you is depth without bulk. That's the whole prize. A man who layers by the map looks like he's got more going on, more interest, more thought, more substance to his outfit, while actually looking leaner and sharper than the bloke in one big puffy coat. You look like more and bigger in all the right ways, and slimmer in all the right ways too, at the same time. That's what good layering quietly does, and almost no man around you knows how to do it. So when it turns cold, don't just grab a coat and hope, run the map. Start thin against your skin. Build out your best knit, finish with a coat that frames it, keep it all in calm colors, and wear it open so it shows. You'll be warmer than the man in the big single coat. You'll look sharper than the man piled up in bulk. And you'll have done it with a system any man can follow. 3 layers, 2 rules, that's the map. So go build yours now, gents. Get some.